Have you ever really wondered what's going on inside a baby's mind? It's this whole world of unspoken conversations, right? It's like this delicate dance of smiles and sounds, a dance that is literally building the architecture of their brain. But what happens when that music just stops?
Okay, let's try a little thought experiment. Picture yourself playing with a baby. It's wonderful, you're both connected, smiling, sharing this perfect moment. And then you just stop. You go completely blank. No expression, no sound, nothing. What do you think happens next? The answer is, well, it's pretty profound, and honestly, it's deeply moving.
So at first, the baby's just a little confused, and they get right to work, They pull out all their greatest hits, a big gummy smile, a playful coo, maybe they'll point at something. They're like a tiny comedian trying to win over a tough crowd, actively working to pull you back into that connection.
But when all that charm doesn't work, the mood shifts. That playful expression, it just fades. It gets replaced by this look of confusion, of real concern. The world, which just a second ago was safe and predictable and happy, has suddenly stopped making sense.
And when that confusion just becomes too much to handle, the baby does the only thing it can do to protect itself. It withdraws. They'll look away, their little body kind of slumps, and sometimes they start to cry. It's like they're saying, the conversation is over, and I have no idea why.
Now this heartbreaking little sequence, it's not just a random thing. It is a predictable pattern that scientists have seen over and over again. So it's time to pull back the curtain and look at the actual science behind this incredibly powerful phenomenon.
This is what's known as the still face experiment. It's a groundbreaking study from 1975 that completely shattered the old-fashioned view of babies as just these passive little blobs. It showed us that from the moment they are born, infants are active social partners, totally hardwired for and hungry for connection. The experiment itself is actually deceptively simple. It basically unfolds in 3 acts. First, the caregiver and baby play together like normal, building up this warm, connected baseline. Then, for just 2 minutes, the caregiver puts on a total poker face. They become completely unresponsive. That's the moment the connection breaks. And finally, the caregiver re-engages, and the researchers watch to see if and how that bond can be repaired.
And what researchers see, time and time again, is this 3-step dance of disconnection. First, the baby tries to get the parent's attention back. When that doesn't work, distress sets in. And finally, the baby withdraws, almost like a little turtle retreating into its shell. But here's the really surprising part. This whole protest is actually a sign of a healthy, socially aware baby. They should feel it when a connection that important is suddenly lost.
So, why does a simple blank face have such a huge effect on a baby? Well, it's not just about hurt feelings. It goes much, much deeper. It's about what's actually happening inside their developing brain.
I want you to think of it like a game of conversational tennis. The baby serves with a little babble or a gesture or even just a look. The responsive adult returns that serve with a smile, a word, or a gentle touch. This back and forth, it's not just playing. This is the very process that builds the architecture of a healthy brain.
And this just illustrates it perfectly, right? On one side, with that serve and return, you have a brain that is literally being built, strengthened, and connected with every single interaction. But on the other side, with the still face, you have a brain that's being flooded with stress hormones. It's sending out a danger signal that says something is very, very wrong here.
And this isn't just an emotional storm. It's a full-blown physiological crisis. The baby's heart starts to race, their blood pressure spikes, and their body is flooded with the stress hormone cortisol. It's a fight-or-flight response, and it's being triggered by nothing more than a blank stare. Now, it is really important to understand that the brief stress of the actual experiment is harmless. It's kind of like a fire drill for the baby's developing stress response system. But when that alarm is constantly ringing, when the serve is consistently never returned, that stress can become toxic, and it can potentially damage the very architecture of the brain for years to come.
So all of this might sound a little scary. I mean, no parent is perfect, right? We all get distracted. We all have moments when we're not fully present. So does that mean we're all causing some kind of irreparable harm? Well, the science actually has a very reassuring answer on this.
The answer is absolutely not. There is a huge difference between what science calls occasional inattention, like when you have to take a quick phone call, and chronic neglect. In fact, believe it or not, those small, brief moments of disconnection can actually be good for a child. They teach them how to be a little more independent and to trust that you'll always come back.
And that brings us to maybe the most important lesson of all, the power of repair. Life is full of these little disconnects. The real magic isn't in trying to avoid them completely, but in coming back together. It's like a dance. You might step on each other's toes, but you apologize, you smile, and you find that rhythm again. That process, that is what builds true resilience.
So, after all of this, the heartbreaking videos, the brain scans, decades of research, what is the one, single, most important thing that we can learn from the still face experiment?
Well, it really teaches us a few simple but profound truths. 1, babies are born social. 2, that connection literally builds their brains. And 3, responsive care is the key that teaches them that the world is a safe and trustworthy place.
In the end, what the still face experiment reveals is a truth that is both simple and absolutely fundamental. For a tiny human whose brain is just exploding with growth, that responsive human connection isn't a luxury. It's not a nice to have. It is a biological necessity, as essential as air and water. And that leaves us with a challenge that feels more relevant today than ever before, doesn't it? In a world that is constantly designed for our distraction, how do we protect these small, secret moments? How do we put down our phones, look into their eyes, and just be present? The answer to that question might just be the most important thing we ever figure out.